The stress project is a great project to incorporate into your course. It will engage students as they collect data on themselves and tell the data story of not only their own data, but class and the US. And stress is such a current topic that students are very interested in. Now, if you've done the Snack Habits project, students have already collected some data on themselves and gone through this process once. That was much earlier in the course. So when would we want to jump in and do the stress project? Our suggestion is to do this much later in the course, placing this after you've taught students basic function writing and the filter and build process. It would be much more engaging to take this data you collect now and have students make some subgroups of it and be able to do some deeper analysis. So you could see here the 6 lessons that we suggest that you've at least covered. Of course, the contracts, bar and pie, and the data cycle so they can ask those good questions. And then there's that knowing how to write the functions so that they can filter and build. Also suggest advanced displays if you're planning on teaching that to your class, because then they can also deepen their insights by doing those image scatter plots, image histograms, etc. Those would be a great tool for them in this analysis. If you've completed histograms or box plots and scatter plot lessons, that will assist in this because they'll know further how to analyze those charts. But if you haven't, that's still, I think, fine. They won't have the deep analysis skills of linear regression or things like that at this point. That's okay. They'll learn that by their capstone project. But at this point, they'll still know how to make those and use them if they wish. What are the goals of this project? Well, just as with Snack Habits, if you did that one, if not, this may be the first time they see collecting and cleaning of data. There is a lesson in Bootstrap curriculum. It's called Collecting Data. You can teach that if you wish before this so that they have deeper skills ready to go. Or you could just show them as an example as you as a class collect this data. But deepen that understanding for them of what makes good questions in a survey that people can answer and not be biased, or that the questions are given with options for them to fill in so that there's less chance of typos or different ways in which people would respond with the same words. Tired and weary, and that would mean the same thing. And so you would give them the option so that you'd be able to combine those words. Also, talking to them about timely responses is important as you collect, because you could get risk to validity of the data if the students are not turning in their data in a timely fashion. Another goal of this is to use that filter and build that you've just taught them so they can create those subgroups or build a column if they wish. So we've talked about using those advanced displays, writing those functions, if they're using conditional functions, if then else if functions, so they can create these advanced displays and really deepen their insights. And more practice on being able to present that data story in a formal way to their peers or to an audience. Let's talk about what does the collection of data look like in this. We want you to collect data over 5 days and try to include a weekend if you can, because data might look different on a weekend for the weekdays for these students. They do different activities between school days and non-school days. Also, we want to use a random number generator so that they're not picking the times that they're recording their stress levels, that we're trying to keep the data honest. There is a form in the lesson on paper that they could fill in those times that they randomly select. The lesson tells you how to have this done. They would pick their 2 times for the day that they are awake. It tells them to not pick those sleeping hours using military time. Put in their 2 times of the day that they would need to randomly select for those 5 days. They then go and set their phone for those, the alarm for those times, so that they would know to check and see where they are. You can see the questions in the form here. How stressed are they at that moment? And who are they with? What are they doing? Those kinds of things to just take mental note. Now, of course, students might be driving somewhere. They might be in a class where the teacher's not going to be too happy if they stop and write down something else. So just tell the students they just need to make mental note of where they are. You can have this paper form in their notebook. They could quickly jot some notes down, jot their stress level down, and fill in the rest of the details later at a more opportune time. All right, but make sure that you are checking daily that they are completing this, that they have their 2 Google Form submissions each day. Check in on them, check the database each night, make sure each student has submitted it before class the next day, and check in with them so that they don't get behind. Again, like we talked about, the validity of the data needs to be there so they don't forget and try to pretend who was I with, what time was it, what was I doing, and then we could lose some validity there. Partway through the process, there's this check-in form, and it asks them to reflect on how they're doing with their data collection. This is just to get some student accountability going, ask them how they're doing, what are some possible research questions that they're thinking of at this point in time, just getting them to think through deeper what's going on with the project and get them to hone in on what they need to be doing for the project. Once data is all in, you're going to need to link the Google Form answers to Google Sheets. And there's a link in the top of your Google Form to do that. You'll duplicate that sheet into a new tab that you'll call cleaned. Mine down here says pirate file. You can call it what you wish. The lesson just suggests calling it cleaned because you're going to set that up to be used by Pirate. Remove this timestamp out of the cleaned file. Make sure the settings are set to anyone with a link can view. That's very important so that Pirate can read it. And then copy that URL into the starter file. Now, if you need assistance on how to make the starter file for Stress, there is a help video out there for that and how to clean the spreadsheet to get it ready for that. Publish it and share that link with your students so that it can begin the analysis. You'll need to clean up for typos, capitalizations, stray spaces. Sometimes students enter a word if they're asked for one word places. We tried very hard to make these drop-down menus so you wouldn't have that, but sometimes they had to enter like why. Why are you stressed? And so this is them, they get to type in something. And a lot of students, for some reason, put a space after they type a word, and they could end up having somebody write midterm space and midterm, and they come up on a pie chart as 2 separate entries. So take a look and see if you find those and get rid of the stray spaces. I highly recommend projecting the spreadsheet every day as you're data collecting. Have it up on the screen and clean it with the students on a day-to-day basis, because this actually helps in the long run. As students see the kinds of things that were going wrong with the data entry, they correct it and don't continue on a day-to-day basis to have those errors. I just have an optional extension idea for you to add if you wish. If you can access and administer a personality test, or some schools administer a StrengthsFinder test to students as part of the school process, or some kind of a test on what are your strengths, or what kind of jobs are you leaning towards. If you have any of those kind of tests that your students already take, or you can find a free personality test online. If you go online and type free personality test, you will see a few pop up. You can administer those, give them a personality test, and add a column. You can see here I added a personality test, had the students go into each of their records before we began our analysis and put their personality type in there. It just adds another dimension to the analysis. We could begin to ask certain questions about is there a connection between personality type and stress. It's very interesting. So just a possible extension to this project that you might want to add. Now, students are going to need to begin their research about teens and stress. There's a list of questions in the lesson, and I have them all here for you. You could take a look at them, but the various things like what are the typical stress levels? Are the stress levels different weekdays to weekends? Does it matter who I'm with? Those are the various kinds of questions here that if you have a question of your own that the kids come up with, they just need to clear it by you. That's totally fine. Have them come up with two of these questions that they're going to investigate, and then go on the internet and they find some research on teens in the US that connect with this. Then we can connect our data with something from the United States in our research here. And now they begin to do their analysis. They'll produce data visualizations. Maybe you've taught them measures of center. If not, they still might know about mean, median, mode. Do some summary statistics like that. Create those subsets. Maybe you want to just do weekends, weekdays, and compare the stress levels of those. Maybe they want to do just personality types if you've added that in, or maybe you're alone or with people. There's different things. See, this is where the filtering really comes in handy. So focus on subgroups that relate to the research questions that they've chosen and begin to make those data visualizations and pull in maybe some visualizations found online. From there, they begin to write their report. Now, if you did Snack Habits, the form of that report was in Google Slides suggested. Here we're suggesting that it become a actual written report so the students get practice in presenting slides and a written report. It's up to you to choose your form. But we're just choosing here to write a written report. And so they'll incorporate their visualizations and write their summaries to their research question. On that stress check-in, they can begin to reflect on the work that they're doing. A strong suggestion here is that students receive peer feedback on what they have before they finalize. So they look at their findings, share it with a peer, and get some feedback, and then maybe go do some editing before they submit their final product. This presentation will be that research paper suggests that it's at least 2 pages of written conclusions, in spite of the data visualizations. These data visualizations are placed within the paper where they're discussed, and that they explain why they chose a bar chart to show this. Make sure they describe what that visualization is telling us, that they put in the code that they use to get that visualization. Make sure they have a title page, and then at the end of the paper, they cite their sources that they found online to support the findings. Choose how you wish for them to present this. Is it going to be just in a small group? Or are they going to present to the whole class? You're just going to print this out and put it on a bulletin board. Your choice. I just put up a student example real quick. These are just chosen pages from someone's paper, but as you can see, it's just a paper where the graphs flow in, and you'll see different charts and explanations. You'll see code in there. Not so much talking about the paper itself as just seeing that it is written with the graphs being incorporated. We offer you a rubric that you can use at the end as they're presenting. Circle the parts that reflect how they did on their presentation and give the students feedback. Presentations like this, telling a data story on their own data, their class, and it is highly engaging. And we recommend that project-based learning is just a wow way to incorporate the pirate skills and the data science skills that the students have been learning in this course.